this.
Hey, it's Melinda from Green the Suburbs here, and welcome to my wild plant laboratory, otherwise known as the Barranca. I've got a couple of things going on here that are planted and intentional. Like I've got Palo Verde trees for nitrogen fixing, and I've got a dragon fruit out here just because it's arid and hot out here, so I think it'll grow well. But what I really want to talk to you about today is all the wild plants growing along here. Take a look down here. We've got so much growing, and I mean half of it I haven't even identified yet. Some of it I have, and I'd like to share that with you today. So first up, we have my Natal Plum, which I showed you in the last video. It's growing horizontally and low, creeping along just the way that it should. And I even have a blossom on it. Wow, that's one thing that you have to get used to when you start switching over to perennials from annuals. Because annuals are just like racehorses, you know. They have to grow, produce, and die all in the space of a few months. Where perennials seem to know that they're going to be around for a while, and their attitude is just kind of like, mañana, I'll grow some tomorrow, I'll fruit next year. So now I have some miner's lettuce, and that is definitely a shade plant I'm discovering. It's great stuff though. Boy, it's nice, tasty, mild green. I think this is going to be our lettuce from now on. This is chia, and yes, it's the stuff that you get when you buy a chia pet. It's really a superfood though. The way that it works, it gets this kind of mucilaginous coating around it that holds tons and tons of water. And the Native Americans used to hydrate it and take it with them if they were going on a long trip across dry lands where they might get into trouble and not be able to find water. I just think it's funny that we've gone from eating a superfood to making toys out of it. Here's some elderberry. When I planted this, it was a foot tall, and I planted it probably in October. So it's been in the ground 6 months. Just denying everything I just said about perennial plants. This one's growing like mad. Medicinally, they're full of antioxidants, and I guess they're really good for bringing down a fever. And you can use the berries for that, or you can make a tea out of the leaves, which is what I plan to do with it. Next up, I have Mormon Tea, which is the use is pretty much what the name says. You can make a tea with it. It never looks like anything more than these little sticks here. It contains ephedra, which is something that can give you energy and increase your metabolism. But just because it's a plant, don't consider that it doesn't have any side effects. It's, just like caffeine coming from coffee. Long-term massive use of it has a downside. I grew this marshmallow because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to find any mallow. And since then, I've found it growing all over the place, including my barranca. But anyway, now I have a marshmallow and common mallow to draw from. And by the way, that is what marshmallows used to be made with. They're not made with it anymore. But medicinally, it's good for healing ulcers, sore throat, bronchial tubes. It's mucilaginous, so it coats and heals everything. And then for cooking, it's great for a thickening agent, or you can make marshmallows out of it. It's got these little they look like little bitty cheese wheels. And that's a part that people like to eat and use. I tasted one, and it doesn't really taste like anything, which when you're dealing with a wild plant is probably a good thing. This is a nopalus or prickly pear cactus that's growing very nicely now that I stacked all of these bricks next to it to retain some heat. What you can do with this is take the new growth, the young pads, and scrape off all of the spines, and then you can chop them up and stir fry them just like a vegetable. It's supposedly good for reducing blood sugar and cholesterol, and apparently it's good hangover medicine too. So maybe I'll give that a try next time. This one, I think, is a narrow leaf plantain, and I'm kind of hoping that it is. Even though it's the broadleaf plantain that everyone says is the one that's good to eat. This one isn't that tasty, but apparently it makes a good field bandage. Wood sorrel. This definitely is. It's California wood sorrel. It's also called oxalis. And it is a pernicious weed, but it's really pretty. And it tastes good too. Sow thistle. This is what one looks like. It's like a dandelion, and it's really, really nutritious. You throw that in some juice. I don't know that I would put it in a salad myself. Stinging nettles. This, I'm really thrilled that I found this. It's just on the outside of my property down in the Barranca. But I think it's something that I could harvest and nobody would really miss. This makes excellent tea, and I've been buying it at the health food store, just the dried leaves. So I'm really happy to have my own source of it. Although harvesting is a pain in the butt. You have to wear gloves and long sleeves and all of that, because if you get stung, it's apparently very unpleasant. But anyway, it's supposed to be a good anti-inflammatory, and it helps to reduce blood sugar. Shepherd's purse is supposedly good for internal bleeding of all kinds, so nosebleeds, ulcers, hemorrhoids, all that kind of stuff. Or you can make a poultice out of it for external bleeding, and oddly, it supposedly helps ringing in the ears. So I'll be adding some of that to my next batch of tea. This is Nutsedge, and I bet all lawns in California at least have some nutsedge in them. The trick is knowing which blade of grass it is. But I found some in an area that I covered over, and this grew through it. I've pulled enough of this out in my time to just really hate it. But for my YouTubers, anything. So I found some and I harvested it for you. There's an edible nut at the bottom of the root, but it's nearly impossible to get without digging the whole thing out with a spade. And the reason why, I don't know if you can see it on this, but there is a long leader. It can be up to a foot long that breaks off really easily when you pull it. So you can't really pull it out. You have to dig it out. I got some, and as you see, they're not very big nuts. So for all the work, it's not a big payoff. And I tasted it, and it kind of tastes the way I imagine lavender hand lotion would taste. So, famine food, definitely. These are Matilaha poppies. I haven't found any edible or medicinal use. In fact, the leaves are supposed to be a mild skin irritant, but aren't they pretty? This is a Rundle Grass, and all grass is edible, although I wouldn't say all of it's palatable. This tall grass looks like a field of corn, and it grows like a weed. It clogs up the waterways in California like crazy. The dried stalks are similar to bamboo. In fact, many consider arundo grass to be an untapped resource for building materials. I haven't built anything out of it yet, but I do know that it makes a really good campfire starter because it's hollow the way bamboo is, and so it'll just get a fire started in no time at all. So my husband bought me this field guide, which is a great thing to have if you happen to be out hiking or camping or whatever you're doing and you don't have access to the internet. With it, I was able to find this tule, or hardstem bulrush. It's growing in a catchment basin here in town. It's useful kind of in the way cattails are. You can eat all the different parts of it, including the pollen that's up on the top of it. I sure am having a lot of fun learning about the world in my backyard. I hope you are too. And hey, thanks everybody for all of your support.